Awesome. So Rico, I wanted to ask, tell me a little bit more about why the word impure. Why did you choose to call the film Impure?
Impure is the one word that you can literally read in almost every news article as a description for girls when they are on their period. This is what they are called in their communities, mostly by men,
Mhm.
and also in all the religious texts, no matter which religion.
June, uko sawa kweli?
Kama ugonjwa wangu ni sugu na maambukizi, waweza ambukiza mtoto?
June, watoto wachanga wanatoka wapi?
Hata sijui. Nadhani kuna muda unafika mambo yafanyika yenyewe. Kimya tafadhali, wacha.
Haka ni kabinti kangu kadogo, ila msichana nadhifu wajichafui.
Pole baba.
1, 2, 3. Saa zingine tumbo huuma na kuacha, pengine ni usagaji wa chakula unaendelea. John, can you please leave the room? Na June yuko wapi?
Leo nimesikia wavulana wakimchekelea.
Wakimchekelea kisa na maana.
Sasa kuendelea nini?
Umemfanya nini mwanangu wewe? Binti yangu aliniambia jana ulimtuma nyumbani. Sababu ilikuwa nini?
You are dirty. And when you are dirty, you should go home and clean yourself.
Sijui kumetendeka nini.
June!
Usione aibu wala haya, hasa katika mambo tunayoyaficha, kwa sababu hatuko huru nayo kuyaeleza. Hadi tunafanya mambo ya kawaida kuwa miko.
Awesome. Welcome to Inspire Young Generation, a channel which is a sister platform to Hakiki Foundation, where we discuss matters around young people around the world, including talking a little bit about quality education, human rights advocacy, and menstrual health awareness through our Period Pride project. So before I introduce my guest today, I will give a little bit of a background about the conversation we're going to have today. And our discussion is about the movie Impure. This movie actually premiered in September this year, 2024, in Nairobi, and was in the theaters at Prestige Cinema, which is a cinema located also in Nairobi. This is the capital city of Kenya. It was in the cinemas on the 11th of October through to 17th of October. It is inspired by real lived experience of young Jacqueline Chepgeno from Kenya, Bomet County, who went through menstruation-related teasing, was exposed to period shaming, and in front of an entire class. And today she's no longer with us. So I'm joined by the filmmaker, the writer and producer of Impure, Mr. Rico Herre. He is here to tell us more about this incredible story that needs telling. And now, without further ado, I will jump right into it, to our discussion. Habari Rico, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for reaching out. And I'm happy to be here. So thank you for the interest and for the warm introduction. And maybe just as an addition, the movie is still running in Nairobi. at Prestige Cinema. So I don't know if when this will be released, but people can go and watch this Friday and this Saturday,
Oh,
October
awesome.
25 and October 26. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll put those dates up actually. This will be
Yeah.
running as of tonight. So awesome. I didn't even know that. So firstly, I want to say congratulations on Impure. I just think, and I know I'm not gonna give any spoilers because I'm really humbled and appreciate the fact that I was able to see it. Being from where I am, so far away from Kenya. But I am really touched, and I know you probably thought, why did this girl reach out to me? But I actually did a video about this particular incident in 2019 when I saw it in the news. I totally forgot about it. Just the other day, I looked out for that video and I realized I was probably a bit passionate and emotional about it, that I thought the situation would have ended up different. So to see someone else from all the way to where you are be touched by this, to actually go ahead and do a movie about it, I was really touched and I had to reach out to you. So because of that, I want you to tell us a little bit about how did you hear about the Jacqueline story?
It was in late 2019 when this news was going around, which is very unusual because it's not that much reported about period shaming, period poverty. And but for some reason, I don't know why, this tragic incident in Bomet County with Jacqueline, the girl who was period shamed and then ended her life, unfortunately, it went viral, it went global, and I remember there was a post from the New York Post about this incident, and it triggered me emotionally, but it also triggered the question, why is this a topic, you know? Because especially me as a guy in a Western country, here it's not that much reported about. The media doesn't cover it that much. And you really have to do a deep research to get an understanding of what's going on, and about actually the drama, this disaster, this global disaster that is going on as we speak. So this story triggered me to do research, which other movies are out there. Because at this time, we were planning to do a movie already in Kenya. We were just looking for a story that is worth telling. And it jumped at me right there. So, but I wanted to make sure that I'm not just like another filmmaker doing a story that was that has been told like for I don't know, the 10th time. But to my surprise, I found out that apart from documentaries and some other short stories or feature films with a very different perspective, there wasn't that single film that where you can see an affected girl at the center of the story, you know, for and this is a very important approach to get an understanding what these girls are going through. If you just put the audience into the shoes of such a girl, you know, this is where we can get a relation and an emotional connection to these girls undergoing period stigma. So yeah, there was a gap to fill, and there was obviously a story that needed to be told. And I think in a matter of 3 weeks from the idea doing this to the first rolling of the camera, was a pretty fast and swift experience to organize everything, to cast the actors, and to go down to Kenya to get permissions and all of these things. So we literally started rolling the camera 1 month after that incident. So it was that immediate. But the whole production then, I don't know if I'm going too far now with this question, but whole production came to a struggle when COVID hit. yeah, it really caught us by surprise. Fortunately, principal photography with the actors was done at this point. It would have been a mess to not be able to go back and do remaining shoots because no one knew how long this pandemic will last. And yeah, but luckily there is a movie now. It took some time, but now it's here.
Yeah, it took some time, right? Yeah, amazing. And actually, I'm surprised because I did not know that you started production in 2019, because then I would have factored that obviously you would have been affected by COVID one way or another. And that leads me to just wanted to find out, why did you decide, and I know you probably touched on this, why you you felt that there was a gap to actually do this particular film, but why did you choose the particular narrative that you chose? Because I have to say that it was a surprise when I watched it. And I don't want to give any spoilers at all, but I want to know what drove you to go with that narrative that is actually sort of portrayed in the film.
Because that perspective was missing. Let me give you an example. There is another feature film called Padman from India.
Yeah.
And in that story, there is a man at the center saving the day for the women. I think he's the founder of a pet manufacturer. It's a good story. It's a real story, but we needed that other perspective. And I think the goal of this film is to create an understanding for the common audience, what that stigma is doing to girls, you know. And apart from the entertaining factor, of course, there is a story, there is tension, there is build up, there are character arcs and all these narrative things. But on the other hand, there is an educative element in the film and an inspirational nature, actually, where I think that this film, we will come to this later, I think, but where this film will also go another route and might inspire young girls or empower young girls to say, there is hope, you know, no matter how desperate my situation might be. But it doesn't have to end in tragedy, and we just have to start the communication, you know, and we can prevent tragedies from happening. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have to say, that's probably the most inspirational part for me, the narrative that you chose. I mean, we know of a lot of movies, like actually in Hollywood, where we focus more on the tragedy, but we don't focus on what are the lessons that can be learned from the tragedy. And the fact that you didn't miss to talk about and to show a little bit of the tragedy that actually transpired, but also to show the other way, like what would have happened if the tragedy did not even have to happen if these things were in place. So I really loved that you showed that narrative, the positive side of what could have been. So, and in the movie, you put us to obviously Jacqueline's perspective and her story in Bomet. You're from Germany, a far away from Kenya. How familiar were you with Kenya before this? And what are parts of the country did you feel were actually important to be shown in the screen?
First of all, yeah, I mean, if you go from the narrative, of course, there is this certain foreign perspective on the film. I think Kenyan films are done usually differently. You might see it in the dialogue. Kenyans don't write dialogue like this, but I don't identify myself as I'm from Germany, I'm male, you know. I just see myself as a filmmaker and as a human being, telling a story about other human beings in a difficult situation, you know. So Impure actually is world cinema. And this whole production even was very international. We also had people in the CGI department working from India, from Egypt, from Pakistan, you know. So a lot of people from different backgrounds were involved. And to be honest, I had no relationship to Kenya before. It was a country that I admired and that I want to go to someday. But it was also surprising for me that because this is my feature film debut, that this would be happening in Kenya. But for a filmmaker, I like to tell the stories that are very far away from me. You know, so new territory that I can explore and where I can take the audience on that journey with me to learn with me. So I went through a huge learning curve, thematically, culturally. Made a lot of friends and colleagues in Kenya, very talented people, and yeah, I think I think heritage doesn't matter. We also have in Germany, we also have a lot of very famous and incredibly successful foreign directors. So that's why I think it doesn't really matter the background. You just have to be respectful and treat especially such a subject matter with dignity. And you have to take advice from the locals. This is very important. So you can't go there arrogantly saying I am on top of the things. You know, I know everything better. Of course, I wasn't an expert in any way on the cultural aspects of the story. So the script that I wrote was pretty neutral. So any cultural influence that came into the film was brought on board, of course, by the Kenyan talents, by the crew. And yeah, I had an amazing crew. So shout out to them, Asante Senisa, and it was a great experience. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And it's also great to hear that, you are the producer, you are the filmmaker, but you came with an open mind for what the culture and for what the country was going to teach you throughout that process. So that's amazing. And I can say that part is actually, when you watch the film, that part is very clear to see that the locals were quite involved, including the Swahili usage part, which is really amazing. I'm used to watching international film where, like, for example, Telemundo film, like Mexican films, where you have to read the subtitles because you don't understand the language. But this was amazing because I didn't have to read the subtitles because I could also understand the language. So it shows that, how you came with the aspect of, I want to know what the locals think, and because this is not, and not to say that it's a Kenyan movie, but the fact that the story is based in Kenya, Kenyans felt like they could own part of that as well through language. So that was incredible, actually, I thought. So tell me a little bit about. Sorry, yeah.
Sorry. Maybe let me add on this.
Yeah.
The Swahili's part, of course, for me personally, it was incredibly stressful at some point, but it turned out to be the biggest joy for me to shoot in Kiswahili in a language that I wasn't familiar with, because it felt like shooting a silent film, because you are so big. I mean, I wrote the dialogue and I prepare myself every evening before, for the shoot, and so I know what the dialogue is about. But I wasn't focused on the dialogue the whole time. I was focused on body language, on the way they spoke the lines, on their demeanor, on the mimics. So that was a very interesting part. So we wanted to keep it as authentic as possible, and shooting in Kiswahili was part of that. And we want to keep it non-sentimental. We want to keep the emotions raw and real and believable. Yeah. So yeah.
And that was beautiful. That was amazing. That really was amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about the menstrual taboo, and I know this is in part of some of the things that you had to learn, being in a new country, being in the midst of different cultures. And had you heard about menstrual taboo before this film?
The thing is, you kind of hear about it, but it doesn't appear on the map, in the media. You really have to dig for it. And of course, as a guy, I don't have the direct experience, obviously, but you kind of know that it's not a secret that women and girls have a harsh stand in other countries, you know. But let me say this: it's not just Kenya. It's this is a global issue, you know. So it's very important to stress the fact, even if the movie shows you that one example based in Kenya, you can guess that this is an issue in every country. In some countries, it's a huge thing. In other countries, it might be a minor inconvenience. But even in Germany, there's period poverty. We also have homeless people who don't have access to pets, or for example, in Germany, girls are also kind of talking around the issue, trying to, you know, using euphemisms like, oh, I'm on my strawberry week, or things like this. So they don't really talk straightforward. But I could see after every screening we had already that people are opening up, and that men standing in groups talking about menstruation, or that even women who were not really open about talking about their periods came to me and had this very sensitive discussion with me about endometriosis or other kinds of things. So yeah, this is it's a very positive impact. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it was also sort of like an eye opener for you in that sense.
Completely, because of course I'm touching new ground personally here, but once I explored the subject matter, period stigma, period poverty, I came to realize that this is an issue on so many layers. It's not just the poverty aspect or the shaming aspect. There is so much in between. If you take into account economics factors, you know, what are the repercussions? What's the ripple effect in the long run if girls miss school because they have to stay at home because they can't manage their period, because they don't have access to pets, family is on low income, and they have to decide, look, we have to get food on the table. So instead of buying pets so you can go to school tomorrow, this is what many families are struggling with. So this really hit home for me, and this is why this movie is so important. It really touches all of these grounds, or at least opens these windows throughout the film. The film mostly is about period shaming, about the shaming aspect, but period poverty is also tackled through the storyline of the teacher. And yeah, if we can raise awareness with this film about this topic and start discussions and hopefully maybe change some mindsets, then it was a work worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Work well done, and it really will reach the message that you hoped that it will reach. You know. So the other question I have for you was, I truly believe, and it's around period poverty, that at the moment, obviously, and I probably did not understand this being a young girl growing up in Kenya myself, that period poverty or menstruation is not just a topic that affects women only. Because think about it, if my mom is not here and I need to buy some pads, I'm probably going to go to dad. But then again, this is not a privilege that all girls get, depending on the community you come from, depending on if this is a taboo topic within your culture. And I wondered, from your experience, or from what you experienced being in Kenya, do you think it's important for men to get involved in menstrual hygiene awareness and advocacy around this issue of period shaming and period poverty?
The answer is yes. So pretty straightforward, yes. We had a test screening last year in September in Samburu with 600 kids. It was organized by a woman called Naisula Lepario and by Together for Better Foundation. They were doing their campaign there, and we're screening the film as like a test screening. And it was so astounding how the feedback from the kids was. They handed out questionnaires, and we thought our main target audience are the girls. So we want to empower the girls, of course, we want to do. But to our surprise, the feedback from the boys, there were also boys in the room. It was so astounding because they wrote things like, "I will never laugh at a girl again," or I'm proud that this movie has changed me. And yeah, things like this, you know. But even the girls, they also said, this movie has changed my life. I don't have anything to be afraid about again, you know. So yeah, that is giving us confidence that the movie is also an educational tool, a very important one. Yeah, but to your question, yeah, men and boys is very, very important, and it's a missed opportunity. If you look that they were always separated, you know, that menstruation was just biology class, and instead of I don't know, taking it also to ethic education, you know, or to social behavior, I mean, it drives so many aspects, but men and boys have to be educated in, of course, the biological aspect is clear, but this is not what we are talking about. We are talking about how to deal with the stigma and how to tackle the stigma, you know, and the only way to end the stigma is to normalize this topic. If you can talk about it, like I don't know, if you talk about nose bleeding or any other kind of biological body functions. So, and men and boys, I mean, they just have to realize, look, this could be my wife someday. This my mother or you know,
my sister.
Yeah, I mean, I like at the world premiere of Impure, Monica Mohoya, who is advocate for Heels for Pets. She said a very cool line. She said, "We are all the product of a missed period." So so that means periods influence life itself. We are all part in that topic, you know. So we all have to be educated about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the reason, and I know I wrote that question because in my head I was thinking, I don't remember a day in class where we had to be talking. I mean, like I studied in both public school and private schools in Kenya, but I don't remember a day I was in class with boys and a teacher was at the front, or like somebody, like, because sometimes they called guest speakers, but I don't remember a day we had such a conversation in a class with boys. It was always boys have to go out and go and be taught about something different. And then this is just a topic mainly for girls. And then,
exactly.
Yeah, and then you're taught when you go home, if you have issues, the narrative is more, go speak to mom and don't quite bother dad with this kind of conversation. So, and I know it's sort of the same and different depending on the community you come from, because there's also the cultural implication around it as well. But like you said, I think it should be like, there should be like a class, like a session in class or like a lesson where all students are there learning about this particular topic from an early age, like as early as, like, you know, upper primary school. That's basically what I believe. And I feel like your movie sort of portrayed that, especially in that scene in class. And I hope like when people get to watch this, they'll probably get to understand what we're talking about, because that was very powerful for the teacher to say, look, I'm going to talk about these. And the boys all looked so uncomfortable. And, you know, but at the end of it, you could tell that even though it was like she was also in a very uncomfortable place, you can tell to begin with, that sort of shifted. And her shifting her mindset helped the kids also shift their mindset. So yeah, I really love that. Huh?
You could see the redemption in everyone's face, and the redemption for the teacher. So there is, it sparks hope at the end, that this journey doesn't continue the way it started. So we all have the ability to change, and we all make mistakes, but there's always room for redemption. So I think this is a good message. But to your point, so from my experience, also talking to many people in Kenya, one of the biggest problems is that many mothers, it starts at the household. Of course, we're talking about schools, but if mothers are giving period education, if they leave it just for the school, but as you know, in Kenya, sexual clarification, education, menstruation, all of this is just talked about in grade 6. So girls are like 12 years old in grade 6. But as you know, I mean, even nowadays, periods start even earlier,
At 9.
So
at 9, 10.
So menarche starts at 9 or 10.
Right.
So then, of course, you have these dramas going on. You have girls sitting there like completely surprised and shocked, And this can be prevented, definitely. If not by the school, then definitely by the families. Yeah,
absolutely. And what I loved about the film is that it's not just saying that this is a lesson for the girls, like you said, it's also a lesson for the teachers, but also a lesson for the parents. And like what I noted was very clear, the conversation around shame. And I know, like, having a social science background and reading a lot of Brené Brown, who is a social worker, specialist from the States, she mentioned so much about how shame can be alienating. Shame makes you feel like whatever is happening to me is only happening to me, and nobody else in the world can actually relate with what's happening to me. And so it puts you in this cocoon where you feel like what I'm going through can never have a solution. And if I can't figure it out myself, then I'm sort of kind of doomed. Because, and sometimes it doesn't even help. Even like just getting the little education you get from school, if you don't get an opportunity to talk about it over and over from people around you at home or your close friends, that situation, for example, let me give you my personal experience. I remember I was talking to my husband about this, and I was telling him my first time, I felt like I was dying. I was convinced the world has come to an end and I'm dying. And as funny as that sounds, I was in a boarding school, because I went to boarding school when I was 10 years old. I had been taught about this since I was like maybe 10, because in boarding school, they would bring in guests. And yes, it was just for girls. And you would think that I would translate that theory, the theoretical knowledge that I'm being given, to the practicality of it when it actually happened. But when it happened, I went to the matron and I couldn't articulate what's going on. But I remember just telling her, I think I'm really sick and I think I'm dying. I probably need to go to the hospital. And until she probed and came to find out what it was, she was shocked. And she thought, I mean, we've been doing education. How has this not worked? I could tell that's probably what she was trying to work out. So I think that conversation around talking about it theoretically, but also understanding that there's some elements of it not making sense when it actually do happen in reality, there's a gap there. There's a knowledge gap. Yeah. So I just thought I'd mention that. The other thing I wanted to mention on this before we probably move to another part of this is just how different, and like I know with the conversation around men, my experience was growing up in Kenya. And I mean, in my late teens, no, not even teens, in my 20s, my early 20s, my experience was I was very free to talk about this with my guy friends. And I'm not talking about even boyfriends like dating. I'm talking about men who are my friends. Now, it doesn't help that I had a really terrible experience with dysmenorrhea, which is, having really painful periods all my life. It got worse the older I grew. And sometimes we would just be going to a function, like a church function, and the pain would come from nowhere and I can't walk. So I've had particular instances with different friends, guy friends of mine, walking from church to home, and I'm in so much pain and I need to sit on a pavement or on the floor. And I've had to tell them what's going on, because otherwise I know they can help me, or I can help myself. And if they don't know what's going on, they can't help me. And I found that all the guys that these happen, like these scenarios happen when I was with them, they were very receptive. They were very helpful. And at no point did I feel like, oh my God, I'm ashamed. I don't want to talk to them about this. So, but I also came to realize that that's also some type of a privilege. Like I was confident enough to be able to speak about it to my guy friend. And this is not something that every girl probably could do, you know? So it helps when both sides, there's some type of confidence and feeling like there's a safe space to talk about it from the girl perspective, but also from the boys or the guys perspective. I don't know why I remember that. And I thought I'd share that with you. I've also heard, and this is also to shed some light that not every boy, child, or male, men in Kenya are completely oblivious about it. There are actually men in Kenya who are really at the forefront of this. They really supported their sisters, their best friends. And I can actually attest to that. There have been those men in my life who've stepped up, including even bring me like a box of pads as a gift. I've had that. So it's to show that the narrative is probably different depending on where a child grows up. But definitely there needs to be more awareness, and that's where Impure comes in. So let me ask you, given that we still don't have equal access to technology across Kenya, how will this film be made accessible to young people, especially those ones in rural areas?
So there are two tracks Impure is driving on right now. One is, of course, distribution. So the film right now is running in Nairobi in the theater. We also want to spread a bit more to other venues, and with film festivals and other premieres around the world. We also want to start to distribute the film in cinemas first in other countries, hopefully in every corner of the world. And of course, afterwards, we also want to go for TV and for video on demand, for streaming, to make this film accessible to wherever we can. And it's very much possible. We already have some interests. The other very important track is outreach. So right now we are in the middle of drafting an umbrella campaign with, I don't know if you know GAZ in Germany, Wash United, Viva Con Agua, so UNFPA, many big players, actually global players, are interested to join there. And what we want to do is actually to create this campaign where NGOs, no matter which size, if it's a small grassroots CBO or a global player like UNICEF, can equally align under this umbrella to use this film as an educational tool within their campaign work. So they will do their outreach campaigns as they usually do. So we don't plan these campaigns for them. They are the experts for this. But we will provide the technical setup. We will organize the questionnaires and the discussion guides and all of these things. And then there will be, let's say, a pet drive in NGOs going up country in a remote area where they, of course, don't have cinemas, and maybe they don't even have, like you said, the technical access to video streaming, or they don't have the money to buy video on demand or anything. But of course, we want to bring this film to schools and to marginalized communities. It's very important for them to be uplifted by this film, to get an understanding and to get this information, not just about menstruation itself. I mean, this is for biology class, but we want to trigger the empathy in people. Everyone has empathy. It just needs to be triggered, you know? So, to hopefully raise awareness and to to make a difference there. Yeah,
That's amazing. That's
that's
really
about it.
amazing. Yeah, that's really amazing. I really looked forward to hearing more about this, and especially when it starts going to the grassroots, because I know that it's easier for people in Nairobi or around the outskirts to actually access it, or people in like affluent places in Kenya. But there are people in areas where there's still no electricity, there's still no roads leading up to major cities. So those kind of kids who actually probably need this film even more because they get less and less access to this kind of information, this will be incredible if you can reach them.
Yeah,
So,
but
yeah,
let me add maybe. Of course, on the one hand, you have this educational factor in the film, but from our experience for the test screenings in Buru, we also learned that I think it was 93% of the kids never watched the film before. This was the first film they saw. And so this is how remote some of these places are. They don't have TVs or And so what we want to do is we don't want to screen the film just for educational purpose. Of course, this is important, but we also want to give them a good experience. So the movie will always be shown on a big screen, like a mobile cinema with good sound, and so they also have this like cinematic experience in their village or in their homestead, wherever we will go with this. And yeah, because we did our best to make this film also cinematic, in terms of the visuals by Ignacio Hennigs or the music by this amazing music by Ibrahim Zidane. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the music, I have to say, the music was just so inspirational. Oh, beautiful. That was beautiful. So how does Impure, so now we've talked about how we're probably going to go to the grassroots and the rural parts of Kenya or parts of the world. But how will you do this? Like, how would this be accessible to, let's say, like my friends who are asking about it here in Australia, and I know I've still got some friends in Germany, Dusseldorf, who are asking me how they can watch it. Have you got that laid out yet?
Yeah, so there is a distribution plan in place, but some things are still uncertain because we have to wait for festival submissions for the notification. If it's accepted, then we can announce, look, this is where it will premiere in Netherlands. This is where it will premiere in, I don't know, South America. Or so some things are still unclear, but I can just urge people, maybe you can put the link in your show notes to follow us on our social medias, because there we will announce all the screenings, all the upcoming premieres. And what I can say is people in Nairobi, I mean, right now they can watch it at the Prestige Cinema, but mid-November we are also on a festival called Under Our Skin. It's a film festival on human rights in Nairobi. It will be screened there, but it will also screen at the same time in Bolivia. This is the South America premiere. Also, it's a sister festival of Kenya. It's also about human rights. It can be seen in Girona, in Spain, next month. In The Hague, in Netherlands, also next month. So a lot of screenings are upcoming, and we have a very on November 14th we have an internal, non-official but internal screening in Berlin with a lot of NGOs. So we have a crowd of very influential people working in this field. So this will be interesting. And yeah, but we are aiming for the German premiere. We don't know where it will happen yet, but once this is clear, then of course we will make alarm on all channels, and then
absolutely definitely when I hear about it, I'll scream loud about it, because I really hope that this movie can get to every corner of the world. That's how inspired I was by it. I also wanted to ask you, so this question was actually interesting. As a teenager trying to fit in, from my experience, I can remember how hard it was, and these kind of topics can be highly sensitive also based on that cultural context. And obviously, Jacqueline's story is not different. The people around her must have played a pivotal part in her journey. And obviously, part of that is shown in the movie. when faced with period shaming, what do you think is most important between individual resilience, supportive environment, or having both?
Both.
Mhm.
It's both, because a supportive environment can create confidence in you, you know. This is, you know, when it's not talked about, when girls are not educated, when they don't have a close bond to their mother, for example.
Mhm.
This is actually where the problem starts. This is where confidence is doesn't grow in these girls, to be able to stand their ground in these kind of situations, you know. If we talk about the case of Jacqueline, this could have been differently. You know, every character is different. Even another girl would have maybe laughed along with the class, or would have stood up to the teacher and said, well, how dare you, you know, to call me dirty? Or so it's very different, and but I think again it starts in the family's home. This is actually where parents can teach their kids to be confident. But it's also very important to have good friends, and to have teachers who are supportive, you know. So this is why the mindset has to shift with everyone, not just men or women. Everyone is in it, and everyone has to question their mindset. You know, what can we do? A very important aspect, before I forget.
Yeah.
Of course, if we talk about periods, I get it when some women say, "Look, it's private and it's intimate, and I don't want to talk about it." You know, this is totally fine. No one is forced to open up if they don't want to. You know, but this is not the point. The point is, and this is where the problem starts. If a woman wants to talk about it, but is not allowed to, or is held back by the community, or by political matters, or religious matters, or whatever, you know. This is where the problem starts. This is where conversation needs to start, and where we need to break barriers to have dialogue there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, well answered. I love that. So our organization, Hakiki Foundation, and I sent you a link on it. I'm really passionate about this topic. You can't even believe it. When I saw you and I heard about Impure, I couldn't even believe it. Because when I did that movie, when I did that video on YouTube, I just sat down and I thought, how is this even possible in 2019? And I couldn't believe it. I felt pain. I felt like I knew Jacqueline personally. I took it really personal. It was really emotional to even sit down and do that video. And I thought, what can I do in my power? I mean, I'm just like a drop in the ocean when it comes to what I can do with this kind of an issue on a global scale. But I thought things like this, it takes someone like you, being somewhere in Germany, someone else, somewhere in Australia, somewhere else, somewhere in China, to think about, in my small power, or in what I'm capable of doing with my gifts and talent, what can I do? And that's how I ended up starting Hakiki Foundation. It was more based on me thinking about what can I do about those girls who don't, or those boys and girls who don't get to go to school in Kenya because they don't have maybe some essentials to finish their primary school. And I started saving a little bit money from my salary to actually put in a kitty and identify schools in Kenya where kids are being sent home before they do their final primary school education. And I would start funding those schools for those kids to stay in school. And then now in that same thought, I started thinking about there are actually kids who also don't go to school because they lack these sanitary products. And I started thinking, what can I do? Because obviously, a single-use product, you're gonna buy it this month, you're gonna need another one next month. And I mean, we've always used those because probably we don't have access to reusable one. And I started thinking, I reached out to a couple of companies actually here in Australia, but you can imagine when you're talking about capitalism, it's real, because as long as you're not injecting money in projects, sometimes people don't always want to jump in on an idea. And I started thinking, okay, I can't get any organization that is doing these reusable products to jump in, but I thought, I'll probably put some money aside every month and buy these reusable menstrual, they're called period underwears. And then, monthly I have some, stock them up, and then identify schools where kids are really struggling to go to school every month and provide them with this. So that's what Hakiki Foundation has been doing. This is our second year actually doing this. And yeah, proud of the project. But I hope, and I have always hoped I could do more. So I really believe this is important, but also know that it's not really the complete solution. So what else do you think needs to be done to change the story of period poverty and period shaming as shown in your movie?
First of all, great job. All these foundations, they're doing amazing work. I even went on pet drives with some of them. I was in Kibera and I saw how these girls, I mean, this was quite an emotional experience, but I had to see with my own eyes to get an understanding why this NGO work is so important. On the flip side, actually all of these NGOs are doing is actually damage control for the work that actually should have been done by the government and by policymakers. And these are actually the most influential people in power to make a difference here. Period poverty is the same with hunger, for example. It doesn't need to be there if you share equally. There are enough resources all around the world. These problems should not be in existence actually. So what needs to be changed? Well, there are two things. One is the poverty aspect. This, I think, could easily be changed if corruption would not be a thing in some countries. If people would just come together and rally those people who can make these political decisions, to allocate the money to the right sources, and to support those who are on low income. I mean, they are not to blame. It's not their fault, So, this is why capitalism is such a bad thing, actually, because you always have the whole spectrum of super rich people and people at the poor end, and mostly the poor people are the majority in this system. So, yeah, there needs to be money needs to be allocated equally to those sources. On the other hand, and this is the stigma, I think, needs a bit longer. I think what we need to do right now is all the mistakes that have been done in education in the former generations. I think we can improve that with this new generation, and to give them the best kind of inspiration and education, so they can also pass it to the next generation. So this is actually very important, because period poverty, everyone thinks it's just a material aspect, but there's also period educational poverty, and this kind of educational poverty, I mean, I think this needs to be erased. People should talk about it very openly, without hesitation, without thinking, oh, I'm violating the personal space or the intimate space of these girls here right now. No, make them your allies. Maybe even include them. Get them in front of the class to the board, and let them be your a talker at your side. And yeah, and art is also a very important tool, like we did with the film. Art is a very powerful weapon to create change. And if it's film or music or poetry, or there's so many powerful ways of changing narratives. So yeah, this is our contribution, and I hope we can also contribute and boost this movement with the film. Yeah,
absolutely. I really love that, and I'm glad you brought in the political angle to it. I was really going to ignore that because I'm telling you, and I know you've been in Kenya at the moment, and you feel sick every time you think about politics.
Yeah,
you think about so many things that are going wrong that should actually be just right, and they're going wrong because people are really choosing their own personal interests as opposed to everybody else's. The people who put them in power, whatever the issues they're going through, as opposed to solving those problems, they're actually thinking about their own personal interests. So it's just politics just it does make me sick to the core. And that's why we do have NGOs, because NGOs are people who sat down and just realized, look, we've got people in power, we've got people who've got resources to actually do what's right. They won't do what's right. We can sit around and wait for them to do what's right. We're just going to go ahead and do what we can. That's pretty much what I think NGO is all about.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's sad because also we are the voters. We vote these people in, whether or not they actually switch up on us or they're very good actors, so that they're different people when they're asking for votes, and then when they get in power, they actually show their real self. It's really a hard conversation to understand when you think about it, but the issue of period poverty shouldn't actually be happening in a country, especially like Kenya, with all the resources we've got, a lot of people who are educated and a lot of people who know better. You wouldn't think this is a thing that is there, but it actually is, because of the amount of just selfish people that are in power, just for lack of a better word. So, it's a topic that I could go deep in, and that's why I really even didn't ask you anything about it. But it's amazing that a person like you can fly all the way from where you flew, from Germany all the way to Kenya, to actually come and talk about something a politician, and especially women politicians, I've got no sympathy for them, for someone who actually could not bring a light to something like this when it has affected a girl, and you were once a girl, but you're in power, you won't do anything about it. So this is something that even makes me be very proud of someone like you, because you could have chosen to not do anything about it, but yet again, you thought with your talent and your gifts, you're going to shed light to this. So kudos to you. Honestly, kudos to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, maybe because of course I had the bulk of the work and the vision and everything, but also shout out to my amazing crew and outstanding cast that I had on the film. So also want to share this feedback with them. Also, maybe one last point on. Of course, we don't have to get too political here, but what those people in power don't see is, if it doesn't struck them on a personal level or on an emotional level, they should at least care about the economic repercussion of this. What happens if so many girls are dropping out of school or miss school? Of course, they are held back. They are under their potential. They will probably not be able to study or to work in the jobs they would have been capable for. So what happens is you have a huge economic repercussion in a negative way. This is if you just think about the human factor and the human resources that you miss out just because you did not invest into pets. Actually a very cheap investment. But and these repercussions are not just then for Kenya, if you take Kenya as an example, but also internationally. We are global. We are all global citizens, and every country today is connected in some way. I have many people from Kenya even living here in Germany, working here. So just imagine if people are way under their potential, what this means for the economy of a country.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a really good point. But I can promise you not what percentage of Kenyan politicians even think about what you just said. That's a story of another day. It's a huge issue. And I have to say, in the history of my existence, probably at the period that you've done this movie, the government of the day, it's actually the worst in my books. So just know that, because when even the whole conversation about taking this movie to the rural areas and to the grassroots. You can imagine how much the government would have assisted with this. When you think about I think there's a Ministry of Youth, there's a whole docket that gets funding to actually support youth and obviously bring awareness to projects that can support the youth and give them knowledge and power and all that. But what do you think happens with the money that is allocated to this kind of ministry and never even gets to those kids in the rural areas? So it's really, I feel like a movie like Impure is really a movie for the people, by the people, and it's going to reach them one way or another, whether the government pulls through or not. And we can no longer sit down and watch them just do nothing. We will do what we can in our power as humans. Awesome. So Rico, I wanted to ask, tell me a little bit more about why the word impure. Why did you choose to call the film Impure?
Impure is the one word that you can literally read in almost every news article as a description for girls when they are on their period. This is what they are called in their communities, mostly by men.
Mhm.
And also in all the religious texts, no matter which religion is, I don't want to point fingers here to a specific one, but all of the great religions in the world, in their holy books, when describing girls when they are on their period, they all use the word girls are impure, and this is how they have to be treated when they're on their period. They have to they're not allowed to cook or to touch cattle, or they have to rest, they have to lie down, they're not allowed to sleep next to a man, things like this, you know. So there is the background of this is, of course, a very is the nature of patriarchy, you know, men talking to men, making rules for women. And I think this is where all of this came from. But this can be backtracked and actually redeemed, you know,
Yeah.
if men take part in this. I mean, I'm not the only one. So many other male allies, they're not the spearhead, of course. They don't want to be part of the top of the movement or the face of the movement. But of course, they want to raise their voice and boost this movement and blow a bit of wind into the sails of all these female fighters. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And honestly, as you say that, it reminded me of an experience I visited a friend in Mombasa. I don't know, did you get a chance to visit Mombasa when you're in Kenya?
Of course. I was in Mombasa many times.
Yeah,
Nice city.
beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. I visited this friend and they had I don't want to say it's their grandmother because I don't remember the relationship, but it was a lady in the house. She had a turban. So there's a specific religion in Kenya where they wear white outfits and they wear turban. So they're called Akorino. I'm not quite sure, and I know they have like different denominations, but I don't know exactly which denomination she was from. But I walked in the room and she started going away from me, like walking away from me. I was going to go around and greet everybody in the house. She started going away from me. And I thought, and she's looking like she doesn't want me to go close to her. So I went to the kitchen. This is actually a real story, like back in 2010, before I came to Australia. I went to the kitchen and I was speaking to my friend's sister. And I said, I'm not sure whether I've done something to offend the lady in the room there, but when I walked close to her, she was going further away from me. And then she told me, oh, I wanted to ask you, are you in your menses? And I said, yes. And she said, oh, that could be why. And I said, what do you mean that could be why? Like, I just walked in a room, I don't know her, she doesn't know me. She said that because of her religion, I don't know, she's got some kind of intuition, like she can sense that I'm in my menses and I'm impure and I shouldn't be near her and I shouldn't go near her. Oh my God, Rico, I was like, I don't even want to be in this house, leave alone try and understand what sort of nonsense that is. But it actually is a thing. So it's amazing that you use the word impure. It's clicking to me having that kind of real life experience. Tell me a
So
little bit more. Sorry?
sorry, I didn't want to
No,
interrupt
no,
you.
no. Oh, good. Oh, good.
The,
Yeah.
in the almost every line of dialogue in the film, there is kind of an interpretation of how the movie's title Impure can be interpreted. You know, of course we get like a really, really clear definition by the end.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it here, but
Yeah.
there is a hint everywhere because you see kind of different angles, you know, in terms of what purity means, the definition of purity. There's a beautiful montage at the beginning where, and this is where it creates this meta layer actually in the film, where it's also hinted that animals are blessed with purity. You know, we can see in many cultures that animals, the relationship between men and animals, in terms of purity, are very complicated. You know, if you look to India, for example, in India, cows are holy in India, and if girls are on their period, they are not allowed to go anywhere near a cow. You know, because they think if she touches the cow, she will fall to the ground and die. Yeah. India, very heavy. Nepal, they have this tradition called Chaupadi, where girls have to stay for 7 days in a menstrual hut, which is nothing else than a cow shed without electricity, water, isolated from family and society. So, yeah. So this word impure, I read it in so many articles that at one point I decided, look, it might seem like a simplified title, but if you think about it, it's the most obvious choice actually to put it there, because this is what appears everywhere.
Absolutely. And even the whole narrative about you're not clean, you're dirty, you know, it's very, it makes sense. That's actually, there is no other word that could have befitted that this movie.
Yeah.
Impure is just that's perfect. That's amazing.
Because you think just by reading the title of the film that there's a negative connotation.
Sure.
But there is, let me maybe say this, there is also a positive drive to that title near the end of the film. It's it just depends on the angle you look at it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It depends on the viewer lenses. Tell me a little bit more about the symbolism and the visuals that was used in the movie that I really, really loved.
Yeah, first of all, the visuals. Ignacio Hennigs, who is the director of photography and co-producer, incredible collaboration, and not the last one. And he has a very keen eye for human features. You know, it's like the human face is landscape for him, and he's very good in capturing these very interesting moments from that very distinct angle. So of course we were working out the shot list, but sometimes he surprised me with shots, you know, and and he has a documentary style, so that was a benefit for the authenticity of the film, and we try to keep the balance between being cinematic, which is actually more entertainment, and documentary style. So, but this combination is what makes this movie, the style of this movie special. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and the symbolism, the symbolism in the film, it's not obvious, but maybe I can give you 2 examples. One example is there is a sequence somewhere in the middle of the film where a storm is coming. You can see it starts raining very heavily, and in between you see June, our main character, having period cramps in her bed, you know. And some people think that this is just a random sequence, but there is a word in Kenya, it's called kunyesha, You know this word.
Yes.
It means waning.
Yes.
But this same word is used mostly by boys to offend a girl when she's on her period.
Absolutely.
They're literally saying this woman or this girl is waning
Yeah.
when she's on her period. So this symbolism to have heavy rain pouring down on the roof of where June is sleeping and having her period pains, you know. And the other symbolism we had, there is a sequence where June is walking with her mother. Oh no, sorry, cut this out. This might be spoilery.
Yeah, all good.
Okay, no, but symbolism in terms of elements that we use, like when you use actually everything that can be related to purity, like water, you know. A lot of sequences play on the water or in the water. A lot of shots are focused on puddles or on rain or all these kind of things. Animals, you know, where we have this connection to animals again. So it's not just, these are not just cheap cutaways. But whenever you see an animal in the film, you're also reminded that these animals were supposed to be blessed with purity, and you know, when you have in contrast this girl that is seen as impure. So yeah, it's actually pretty deep if you think about it. So
yeah, and it's amazing that you mentioned that particular scene, because I have a feeling I really paused there and I started thinking about what is this all about, because there's something called being in a depressive mood when you're around your period. And I get that a lot myself personally. It can be on the first day, second, that day, but it will be like something that will happen only one day or even half of that day, and then it disappears. It comes and it's like a wind. You feel like you're in a depressive state. And I connected being in that depressive state, terrible weather, and pain. And I really, that is how I viewed that. And I paused because that it's amazing that that's the exact point that you talked about, because I started thinking there has to be some kind of meaning behind this, why all these three are happening: the rain, the storm, and the pain. So that's actually amazing. I really love that. I can't wait to hear what other people think when they watch it and how they resonate with that particular scene. Yeah, but that's amazing.
Kunyesha. So this is of course this is a very deep cultural meaning. I mean, not everyone will get it, but there is. Let me tell you, there is so much more symbolism in almost every shot. Has some sort of symbolism in it, even if you don't notice. So I'm really eager to see what audiences bring to the table. You know, how they interpret and what they can point out, what they find in the film. Yeah.
Yes, that was absolutely beautiful. What did you call the filmmaker? What did you call the person who was doing the visuals? What's their name?
Ignacio Hennigs.
Ignacio, kudos to you for that. That was incredible. Tell me a little bit about the music, the beautiful music that was in the film that made me want to cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, I could win Ibrahim Zidane for the project, who is one of the most talented Kenyan composers of his generation. I mean, there are of course also others, but his work stood out to me to be the most fitting partner to do the music for this project, because I didn't want to have this generic score, Hollywood score, because this film served a very Kenyan musical touch. And Ibrahim has this, I don't know, he is perfect in combining Western elements that we hear from Hollywood, like the instrumental compositions, yeah. But on the other hand, he has woven in all these cultural Kenyan elements. We hear marimba and some what's the other? There is a harp playing. I don't remember the name right now. But very very Kenyan instruments. And of course we use a lot of choirs in the film because we thought we did not want to leave it on just an instrumental level. We also need vocals, and we decided to go mostly with female voices, and to have a nice contrast. We have a children's choir, a girls' choir, and a women choir, which is the girls' choir of Kenya. The little girls' choir is the Westland School girls' choir. All of them amazing. It was 3 days of recording in the studio in Nairobi. We had a wonderful time to make this happen. And apart from songs, so I wrote some lyrics for the music, and Ibrahim was amazing to find the right melodies and what's the word? Sorry. Don't find my no. No. So, but Ibrahim was able to find the right melodies and the best possible composition for this. So, for example, we also had humming parts like and this was for a very specific reason, because we wanted to express how would these girls articulate themselves, when they are held back. Of course, they have their mouth closed, like I don't want to open up, I don't want to speak, and this is what this humming comes from. And at some point in the film, you see that there is a shift from humming to them opening up their voices. So so we were playing around with a lot of ideas how to express how these girls and women can express themselves to lend their voices for those who don't have one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really, really love the music. So, and I know I had asked you this before, but it would be nice for you to tell the viewers, like, will this music be put somewhere, like a soundtrack? Can we access it somewhere? Where
Definitely. We are working on it. So there will definitely be a soundtrack album that you can also get online. I don't know. I don't want to promise channels yet because we don't have them yet, but there will definitely be a soundtrack album. Look out for it. And again, also here, just check our channels. Of course, we will announce all of these things once they're ready.
Now, let me ask you the last question. What do you hope to see after people watch Impure globally?
I hope that I hope it will create some spark for them to take action. Taking action doesn't mean they have to found an NGO and becoming an activist or whatever. But taking action could mean to say, look, it doesn't hurt me if I donate a small amount to an NGO working in that field directly to them. There's a huge range of NGOs all around the world. I mean, I could name some in Kenya, but people can do their research. There's so much they can do to provide, But on the other hand, apart from donating to these NGOs, be part of the discussion. Try to, in your next family gathering, birthday parties or whatever, just drop this topic and try to start a conversation on this. Hey, did you hear about that? This is a huge thing in period stigma. 500 million people around the world have no access to pads, for example. These huge numbers are not pretty visible, so it's important to talk about these discussions, and you will be surprised how people are opening up, and this is what I got from this. Whenever I started these discussions, when people were asking me, "Hey, what's the movie you're working on?" I said it's called Impure. It's about period stigma, and I said, "What?" They didn't know that this is a huge thing, but once we started the conversation, they couldn't stop talking about it. So yeah. This is why discussion and dialogue and conversations are needed. This is the only way we can normalize menstruation and on the long road to end the stigma. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was just incredible, Rico. And I want to give you this opportunity to say, to give your final remarks and what you aspire to see around the world, what you would like to tell people who will watch the film or who haven't watched it and who have watched it.
Definitely take the chance if, we are at the beginning. We just launched actually. But yeah, follow us on social media and just check where the film is running and take this opportunity to just reflect yourself, what's my position on this and what's my opinion, be part of the discussion and just support this movement. This movement, we didn't start the movement. The movement is already there, it's very powerful. And you don't have to become an activist to make a difference, you even if you just change your mindset, even this could be enough to drive change that hopefully will last on, So yeah, shout out to my amazing crew again. You are all awesome. Shout out to Kenya. Shout out to my collaborators in Germany. And here, for example, right now I have the Kenyan armrest.
You really have become Kenyan. When you've got that, you really are Kenyan by blood now.
Yes. So
that's amazing.
And this is from Wash United. This is this very famous armrest from International Menstrual Hygiene Day. So you have 31 pearls, yeah. Okay. 5 of them are red, of course, for the
Wow.
For the 5 days.
Amazing. Wow, that's amazing. Where did you say that was from?
Wash United. Wash United is the initiator of the International Menstrual Hygiene Day. So they are doing a lot of wash work all around the world.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much, Rico, for sharing your gift to the world. I just want to say that, for shedding much needed light in women's health, specifically highlighting the significance of eradicating poverty, period poverty and period shaming. It's really important that people like you exist in the world. I'm really proud that people like you exist in the world. I would like to give you your flowers today. Really, just take it, smell them. Just to appreciate the great work you and your production team did. I'm also certain so many people, especially in Kenya, are super proud of you and the entire Impure production team. The acting was absolutely incredible, and I can't wait for everybody around the world to get to watch it. I was really inspired by the young lead actress. She just did amazing.
Shout out.
Absolutely, shout out to you, girl. You did an amazing job. She's got a beautiful career. If she ever wants to actually follow through, she does have a gift there. A special thank you to the amazing Janet Bogwa. She's the founder of Inuwadada, for her special feature in the film and for always advocating for girls and human rights. I appreciate you, Rico. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're most welcome. I'll post this on all my socials. I will have this up on YouTube and for everybody to watch. And I will also share your handles as well for people to actually keep up with where they can watch the film around the world. And I just want to say thank you again. So appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And let me know more about your foundation. So maybe you can also join the umbrella if you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll share more as well.
Asante sana.